Hello book lovers, and welcome back to Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. Today I will be starting my second weekly vlog of September. I am hopeful that this vlog will have a bit more books read. I think in the first one I only read one book. So right now I am reading The Raven King by Maggie Stiefvater, which will go ahead and finish the Raven Cycle series for me. I have to read this for an Aurelian prompt. I believe it's Animal Studies, a book with either ravens on the cover or the word raven, and this book has both, and I need to read this before I can read The Dumb House, which is to get a Q, or no, this is to get a Q in Animal Studies, and then Dumb House is to get a D, because it needs a hair on the cover. So I'm going to go ahead and read this. Usually I work through these books relatively fast because it is a YA story, but it is around a little over 400 pages. But once I finish this, I may pick up The Dumb House. I'm not sure. I've been a little unsure about what I want to pick up next. So I may do another poll or just pick up whatever I happen to be in the mood for. But I just wanted to jump on and start this vlog. It is a little bit before noon on Monday. It is a holiday, so that's why I'm not at work. I just got back from the gym, which is why my hair is all wet, and I'm about to head to Costco and to finally buy some new workout shoes because my knees are very unhappy with my current shoes. So I will probably not update you too much on this book because I can't say too much about it. So this may end up being a slightly shorter vlog, which considering my last vlog was relatively long is not too bad of a thing. But I will go ahead and just let you know when I have something to say, maybe the 50% mark, or heck, maybe even once I finish this book a few days from now. Alright guys, so it is Wednesday morning, a little bit before 9 o'clock. Today I am bringing my grandma to the airport. She is returning to Germany. And after that, I will be going to Half Price Books, since the one near me is only an outlet. I figured I'd take this opportunity to go to an actual Half Price Books to see if I can find some good reads there. I am a little under 200 pages into this book. Let me check. I'm about 165 pages into it. Really enjoying it, really enjoying the way the relationships are developing in this book. I really enjoyed the slow burn of it all. But here in the final book, you know, everyone is starting to come together a little bit more. There is some sort of darkness approaching that they're trying to kind of figure out what the cause of it is, and of course how they can fight it, I guess you could say. So still enjoying the writing and everything. Haven't made any more progress in Gideon the 9th since I last updated you, but since I'll be driving, I'm hoping to make a good amount of progress in that book. But I will, of course, update you when I get home to hopefully have a not too big haul. Tell me what you need, tell me what you need, tell me what you need, tell me what you Alright guys, so I am going to do a quick haul. I ended up getting 5 books, I believe it is. Yep. I was gonna do it inside, but the weather is so nice out, and also our wash machine is just really loud right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and haul these 5 books. When I was there, I was kind of like, thank God this isn't like close to my house, because I would be here like at least once a month. But I spent less than $50 on these 5 books, so pretty good deal. And the first one I got is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. I read Spinning Silver by this author at the beginning of this year, and gave it 5 stars. Absolutely loved it, so I definitely want to read her other works. This one I believe is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, I think. It seems that there is a town that lives at the edge of some sort of dark forest, and there is a wizard that keeps the forest from spreading into the town, and every 10 years he requires a young woman to be sent to him to serve him without question. And everyone believes that our main character's best friend, her friend, who's very beautiful, very brave, very graceful, the kind of person, you know, everybody wants to be. They think she's gonna be chosen, but it seems that in fact our main character will be chosen. Beyond that, I have no idea what this book will be about. I'm assuming it might have some romance aspects to it, just like Spinning Silver did, but I really enjoyed the writing and the kind of like ambiance of the story, and I also enjoyed how the author wrote really strong and intelligent, hardworking female character. So I'm hoping to get more of that in this book. Alright, so next I got what I believe is a kind of like a sci-fi thriller. I've really enjoyed those so far. So this is a debut novel, and that is The Luminous Dead. I believe I've heard good things about this one, and I'm not too sure exactly what it is about. It seems that someone kind of falsifies their credentials to get a job that they're hoping will pay well, but instead, you know, they get a lot more than they bargained for. They seem to be kind of like in an isolated setting, and they seem to have kind of a sketchy, dark past, things that they need to kind of, this thing is flying around, kind of overcome, as well as, you know, them facing the dangers of them possibly being, you know, followed by something. And I think, I mean, it seems like it might take place in caves, because I think it mentioned something like mining. Yeah, caves. So we find ourselves kind of very isolated, if not in a very claustrophobic environment. So that sounds very intriguing to me. So I will hopefully enjoy this book. All right, next I picked up a book that is not on my Goodreads TBR. I tried to buy only books that are on that TBR, just so that I'm not adding on to it. But this one is by an author that I've read in the past. It is the author of The Alchemist. His name is Paulo Coelho. And this is called The Pilgrimage, and this is apparently kind of like almost a companion novel to The Alchemist. I really enjoyed how at peace that story made me feel. I really liked the journey aspect, yet at the same time feeling complete and satisfied in the place where you currently are. And this seems to kind of follow a similar pattern of travel, yet at the same time having an appreciation and love for the places that you are, and just, you know, enjoying the simple things in life. So I'm hoping to get kind of that peaceful reading experience that I got from the author's other book. All right, so next I got relatively lucky. I've been trying to read more female romances and have honestly been kind of failing at it. But the next two books that I have on here are, I believe, female romance. And they're books that I have been eyeballing for a while. They're both YA. The first one is called The Winter Duke by Claire Eliza Bartlett. And this seems to follow a young girl or young woman, I guess, who lives in a kingdom who she doesn't really want to be part of her family. She doesn't want to be part of the royal family. She's kind of hoping to escape all of this someday. But all of a sudden, her family, her parents, her siblings all seem to fall under a sleeping spell, and she finds herself betrothed to her brother's wife, or fiance, I guess I should say. So I'm not sure too much about what else this book is about. I'm assuming they need to kind of figure out how to suddenly rule a kingdom when they thought that that would never happen, and maybe even figure out, you know, what happened to their family and how to wake them up, and of course, hopefully a really nice, interesting relationship between these two young women who suddenly find themselves engaged. The last book I'm really excited about, even though I haven't heard the best things about this book, but it is an author that I read earlier this year and really enjoyed, and that is A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. I read the Fever King series earlier and absolutely loved it. This book, I believe, has dark academia vibes. I believe it includes like witchcraft and kind of investigating the death of or the life of 5 witches, I think, maybe, that were present on these grounds at some point. So it would be a nice book to get to this fall if possible. It does look like it's got maybe some like spookier, darker vibes, and I'm hoping that the story pulls me in as much as the author's last books did. All right, so those are the 5 books that I got. I'm gonna go ahead and head off to the gym, but I did get a little over 50% through Gideon the Ninth, and things are definitely picking up now. The trials are becoming more clear of what's, you know, happening, and there also was a unexpected death that has kind of left everyone shook. So it's definitely, the story's getting intriguing. And I did a teeny bit of reading while I was eating lunch for The Raven King, and it's definitely getting darker than it has been in the past 3 books. So I'm definitely intrigued about where the story goes, but I will keep you updated on those and check in with you later. Hey guys, so it is a little bit after 8 on Saturday. I've been up for a little while because today is our yard sale day, so I'll be out there doing that. But I just wanted to update real quick because last night I finished The Raven King, but it was kind of late, so I didn't update you then. So this is the last book of a series, so I finished another series. That's wonderful. And I think I have to give this 4 stars. I mean, I liked this book, or the things I liked about this book is the same that I liked about all the other books. I like the characters, the relationships, the writing, the side characters. Concept is interesting. What I didn't love was the ending, and I do think that some people don't like this ending. I think it's one of those books. Let me close my door real quick. I think this is one of those series that has like a conflicting ending where a lot of people don't like it, but a lot of people are like, yeah, it's a great ending. I didn't hate it, but it did leave me a little disappointed. Now, I'm not saying that this book, you shouldn't read this series. You know, this is one of those books where it's about the journey, not the destination. It's just the ending fell a little bit flat, and seemed a little bit sudden. Like, oh, the ending's here and now it's over. So after reading, 4 books, it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, here we are. But yeah, still really glad that I ended up reading this series. It's a series that a lot of people read back in the day and really loved, and I, just never got around to it. So I am really glad that I went ahead and jumped on the bandwagon, because I overall really loved the series, and will, of course, continue on with Hawkdown. I don't know what it's called, but the one that follows Ronan, there's a continuation of his story. So I will definitely be going on to that, and continue reading Maggie Stiefvater's work, just because I'm just a huge fan of her writing. Now I can update you a tiny bit on Gideon the Ninth, because I spent so much time yesterday waiting for my pizza to be ready. I was literally waiting in the restaurant for like an hour. So that meant I got, quite a bit through Gideon the Ninth, because I also went to the gym. So I have about an hour and a half left of that. Kind of fingers crossed that I finish it this weekend, because I have been moving pretty slowly through it. I have to admit that I think I kind of screwed myself by reading this book via audiobook, because I am a very visual person, especially when it comes to learning, which is why I'm having such a hard time grasping all that is going on in this book, which is of course making me enjoy it a little bit less. I am really enjoying our main characters. I really love Haro. I really like Gideon. The side characters, while they kind of sometimes, I don't want to say they blend together, a few of them do, but even the ones that kind of stand out, my brain just can't seem to remember who they are, who they're associated with, what house they're associated with, if they're a necromancer or if they're a cavalier. So it's a bit of a struggle. I'm assuming right now that the book is probably going to be around a 3.5. And though I am really enjoying the narrator of the audiobook, I think it would be in my best interest that when I continue the series, which I am planning on to at this point, that I go ahead and do that with a physical book. So it does look like we are getting towards the final climax. A lot of crazy things are happening. A lot of people are dying. A lot of people are betraying other people. So it is exciting, but it is a lot happening. And my brain was just kind of like, I don't know what's happening. It's kind of one of those things where you understand the final destination where you arrived, but you don't know how you got there. So that's kind of where I'm at with that story. But I will go ahead and update you when I finish that, either in this vlog if I do end up finishing it this week, or of course next week's vlog. Now the next book that I will be reading is a short one, so I am kind of hoping to finish it this weekend, but we'll see how much time I have to read, and that is The Dumb House by, I think his name was John Burnside, and this will complete my animal studies class, I believe, for a familiar hair on the cover. So we got the rabbit on this cover. This is also going to be used for Becca's Bookopoly. It's going to be a book published before 1999. It's also used for my TBR game, a thriller mystery horror that is under 300 pages. And I do believe this is one of the 22 books on my 22 books to read in 2022 list. So I'll be checking off a lot of boxes with this one. This follows a man who heard about a study that was done back in ancient times or whatever, where they isolated a bunch of infants and had them raised by mutes to kind of see if language was inherently learned, or if it was something that had to be learned by others by teaching. And he decides to kind of replicate the study with his own children, and his children develop kind of a musical language that they can use to communicate with each other. But he himself can't answer, or, can't understand it. So he does seem to seek to punish them for that. It says, but as an adult, following the death of his mother, Luke's obsession deepens, resulting in a haunting and bizarre experiment on Luke's own children. So, very interested. I haven't honestly heard anything about this book. I just heard someone talk about the synopsis and was really interested. But I will, of course, let you know my thoughts when I get a little way into it. So I just finished the first chapter of The Dumb House. They don't really have chapters. It's just part 1, part 2, part 3. But they do have these little breaks. So I read about 15 pages. So it seems that I remember when I chose this book, I was like, hopefully, the kids don't end up dying. But like within the first few pages, actually even the first sentence is that he has killed the children. So the experiment, I guess, didn't go the way he wanted, and so it seems he maybe like cut their vocal cords or made it so that they could not speak anymore at all, and then poisoned them and buried them next to, I'm assuming, their mother, who is apparently already dead. It seems like there is a third person in the house called Karen. I don't know who they are, what's going on with them, and he's hoping to restart the experiment with them. And right now we're just getting some flashbacks to his childhood. He was very close with his mother. His father was a bit of an outsider, like his mother didn't really interact with him, and he himself kind of took after his mother and didn't interact too often with his father, and she really enjoyed telling stories. So she would tell him, all these stories almost every day at bedtime, and that's where he really developed a love for language, which throughout this book I'm assuming turns into pretty much an obsession. So it's interesting. It's a slow read just because the way it's written is very, I would say, intellectual to a degree, not like academic, but it is a classic, and I just threw out my bookmark. So these books are always written a little less straightforward than you may see in some books nowadays. So it's probably not going to be the quickest read for me, but it's definitely an interesting topic. I'm assuming that since the book starts with him saying that he has killed the twins, I guess they're twins, that we're going to probably kind of jump back and forth throughout time with the experiment he's working on now, maybe his childhood, as well as the experiment that he was doing with the twins. But I will go ahead and let you know when I get a little further into the book. But so far, I'm definitely intrigued. So I've only read another 5 pages, but while in the first chapter, we seem to be focusing on how he developed his love of language, in this chapter, we seem to be focusing more on how he developed his almost kind of obsession with the concept of death. So it seems that his mother would take him out to go looking for dead animals, which I am suggesting you don't do with your children. And he started doing this on his own. He also became very obsessed with the fact that his mother is not immortal and will die one day, and started picking up kind of these rituals, these obsessive rituals. I'm almost wondering if he has a slight obsessive compulsive disorder. He made a lot of lists. He had a lot of rituals. He collected bones in a specific way. It's clear that he's not completely mentally stable, I would say. And it seems that as he becomes more worried about his mother's death and as he gets older, he seems to be getting kind of worse and worse, which according to the synopsis will cause a lot of issues once his mother dies, and will completely cause him to lose it, and I'm assuming is what leads him to perform the experiment that he does on his children, which ends eventually with him killing his own children. So definitely interesting to kind of read about his past. I can definitely see how it's going to build up to his need to perform the experiment that he eventually does, and I'm definitely interested in seeing how it all unfolds. All right, guys, so the yard sale is over, and it was not the most successful for me. I barely sold any clothes, so now I just spend a bunch of time taking pictures of them and putting them on the Buy Nothing group that me and my mom are part of. And I actually only sold 4 books, the Curse Breaker trilogy and A Wrinkle in Time. So not a lot of readers coming through, but I will go ahead and post those on another day on the Buy Nothing group. Right now I'm too lazy to take any more pictures. But whatever I don't sell there, or not sell because you give it for free, whatever I don't get rid of there, I will just go ahead and either maybe put in the free library or Value Village, or maybe even donate to the library. But while I was sitting in the garage, my mom found a box of books from my sister's college time. And so I snatched a couple of them because they're nonfiction, and I'm always looking for cheap nonfiction. And the first one is The Ethics of Invention, Technology, and the Human Future. I have no idea if any of this will be comprehensible to me, but it sounds like an interesting topic, especially since I've been getting more into sci-fi. And the other is actually a nonfiction book that I already have on my TBR, so I was really excited to find that. Not that I bought it for myself and then found we already had a copy, and that is The New Jim Crow. So this is obviously a book about the US prison system. So very excited to add those to my physical nonfiction books. When I went to Half Price Books the other days, I didn't even look at nonfiction because I have quite a few, and recently I just haven't been reading them physically. I've been mostly relying on audiobooks for nonfiction, so I definitely need to start getting to those. But yeah, I did a little bit of reading. I think I only got to page like 24 or so on my book. Don't have anything new to say on that. So I will go ahead and update you when I do have something to say. So this book has some interesting conversations about language. Obviously, that's going to be a big focus of the story. Now, I don't have a deep understanding of language, so I'm sure that a lot of this book is going to go right over my head, so don't expect any sort of deep comprehension of the story on my part. But the way that people see language connected to one's intelligence, one's ability to be really human, one's ability to have a soul, is really interesting. The way that some people who have performed this experience or experiment thought that maybe if they did learn a language in isolation, that was not in any way impacted to the language of that modern time, that in a way they were speaking the original language of God. But our protagonist here, our main character, is not really interested in that line of thought. He's more interested in the fact that when his mother told him the story of the Akbar and the Dumb House, that he never got to figure out what people's reactions to it were, how their belief was shaken, or, how the children thought, or anything like that. So it seems that he is hoping to recreate this experiment so that he can get those answers that he never got through the story from his mother. I just wanted to give a quick disclaimer that this book does use the word retarded a few times. I know I personally am not a fan of that word, and that it's not a word that, we should call people who are mentally handicapped. But this book was written in 1997, so I don't know when that word became, more seen universally as disrespectful. If it didn't occur or if that wasn't the case when this book was written, or if the author felt that this word was necessary to get across certain points throughout this book. But it has popped up a few times, so just a heads up if you are sensitive to that kind of language. Just as a trigger warning, obviously this is a kind of like thriller-esque book, so as always, check trigger warnings before reading it. But we are currently in a scenario where he is interacting with a woman who has a child that is mute. And he went over there to kind of investigate the child, but has instead now shown interest in the woman because she seems to go into these kind of like trance-like states where she's like doesn't move, she doesn't like really react, or she doesn't speak or anything. She just kind of like lays there, and he, on these visits when she's like that, does have sex with her, which, considering she's in a trance-like state, isn't like she can really give consent. It does seem like she knows that this is happening and is allowing it, but it could still be like a rather triggering scenario for some people. So just a heads up for that. Also, there is now, he just hurt the young boy, so you could say that there is definitely child abuse in this, and I'm sure that the child abuse will continue throughout the story as well. So just wanted to pop in real quick to let you know about some of those triggers that seem to be rather relevant to the story right now. All right, so it is Saturday night, and I have just finished part 1, the first 80 pages of The Dumb House. And this book has got my brain going to places I don't want it to go. It is a rather disturbing read. I think I underestimated exactly how uncomfortable this book would make me, but it definitely does. I already warned you guys about the rapey scenes, but another trigger warning for the dissection of live animals. So there's that. We're definitely in the head of a psychopath. I mean, I am in no way qualified to, diagnose anyone, but I'm assuming the mental illness is strong in this one. So the first part doesn't really focus on the actual experiment, other than, the beginning where it seems that he feels that it failed. It focuses a lot on how he came to the conclusion that he wanted to perform this experiment, some of the research that he does to kind of prepare for it, as well as a lot about his childhood, specifically his relationship with his mother, and then the eventual death of his mother. So I don't know what the second part is going to be about, but I have a feeling things are just going to get weirder and weirder. I am enjoying the story despite the fact that it is so unsettling. So I will go ahead and probably give you an update maybe at the end of part 3, which I think is on page 145. About 60 pages, so it's about another 60 pages away. I don't know, that probably won't happen tonight, so I will probably go ahead and check in with you tomorrow. Hey guys, so it is just a couple minutes before 2 o'clock on Sunday. I just went downtown, walked around for a while, had some lunch, exchanged my new walking shoes for another pair because the one I got ended up not quite being right. But I just wanted to give a couple reading updates and also to show off the new mug I got. Isn't he cute? All right. Well, anyway, the first thing is that I did finish Gideon the 9th while I was walking. I am going to be giving this book 3.5 stars. I did really enjoy it. I really liked the ending. I really enjoyed the characters, the dialogue. I think that the story is a really interesting concept. The main reason I couldn't give it higher is just because I was a little bit confused some of the time, specifically about who is who, who's doing what, who's saying they're not going to do things, and people who are saying they are going to do things. I didn't know if people were like contradicting what they were saying or if it was a completely different person doing it. So that was a little bit of a problem that probably could have been resolved if I read the physical book, but I did enjoy the narrator so much that I do plan on continuing the series through the audiobook format. So hopefully that works out. Maybe we won't have as many characters moving forward. Fingers crossed. But yeah, super glad that I went ahead and finished that. That was for one of my Aurelian prompts. I don't remember what class it was for, but it was a book that needed to have a necromancer in it, which this book has a ton of necromancers in it, so that worked out perfectly. I did read the first chapter or listen to the first chapter of the next audiobook I'm listening to, which I believe is called The Healer of the Water Monster, and I think it was Brian Young who was the author. This is a middle grade, I want to say, that involves Navajo mythology. I want to say it's Navajo because I think the little prequel was a Navajo story, and we follow a young boy who decides he wants to spend his summer at his grandmother's trailer, which is pretty like out, is kind of like isolated in a way, doesn't have like Wi-Fi or even running water. But his father was going to Las Vegas and invited his new girlfriend, and so the boy was like, yeah, no, if you're not gonna actually take son-father time seriously, I'm just not going to do it. So he kind of made up like a science experiment that he wants to do involving corn, and that got his parents to agree to let him go to his grandmother's house. In the first chapter, he arrives there. We kind of figure out the issues that he's having with his father, as well as he spots kind of like a large footprint by the outhouse, which I'm assuming is going to belong to said water monster. So far, I'm definitely interested in the story. I definitely don't read enough Indigenous inspired stories, so definitely glad I'm reading this. I am reading this for Amy's from A Star Reads viewer prompt to read a book from an Indigenous author, or was it with Indigenous characters? I think it was by Indigenous author. This book also seems, just based off a few sentences that have popped up, that our main character is a little bit overweight, and that's something he's really self-conscious about. So I am hoping that we get, some discussions about, having body insecurities, of course, confidence in oneself, specifically through the point of view of a young boy, which we don't get as much. So hopefully that'll be handled well. The last thing is that I read just another 12 pages. I'm getting a little bit less optimistic that I'll finish this this week, just because I do still need to clean my bathroom and then figure out what to do for dinner, which I forgot about until I just arrived home. But let me just say, the more and more I read about this character, the more disgusted I am with them. So yeah, just to look out for trigger warnings, because this guy is just spiraling into 100% psychopath. He hurts people. He enjoys violent sex. He did pretty much just proclaim himself a pedophile. So a lot of issues going on. Still very interested in the story right now. In part 2, we are meeting Lillian, who is the mother of the twins, which, as we know from the beginning of the book, will be dead, and she will be dead as well, because the first chapter discusses him burying the children next to her. So she is mentally handicapped. She does not speak, and she doesn't really know how to read that much, or she doesn't really know how to write, and that's something that really draws him to her. And they form kind of a relationship. Pretty much she was like homeless and kind of in an abusive situation with another homeless man, so he goes ahead and brings her into his home, and her feeling that she owed him, started sleeping with him, things like that. So toxic relationships all throughout, but hoping that I make a good amount of progress, if not even finishing this book. But I'm going to go ahead and get my chores done so I can sit down and relax. It is a little bit rainy out right now, and the weather has definitely cooled, so I will definitely be setting up kind of a fall vibes ambiance video, and relaxing. Just finished part 2. I'm on page 145, and the twins were just born, so part 3 is going to be about the twins, and the actual experiment that he's going to do on them. Not too much more to say than what I've already said. I do enjoy, enjoy is a strong word. I do find it interesting seeing things through his point of view. He's incredibly observative about the world around him, the people around him, kind of saying how he thinks people are perceiving certain situations, why they're acting a certain way. So you can very much see that he has the mind of a scientist, and why he's so drawn to, performing different experiments throughout his life. I have to admit that reading and just watching him kind of like escalate in his cruelty makes you almost somewhat immune to the horror of it all. Like you're almost, what's the word? You're almost becoming, somewhat desensitized to it. So he performs some sort of horrible crime, and you aren't surprised anymore or anything like that. I'm not saying that the author has gotten to the point where he's gone like too far and that it seems like it's just trauma porn at this point. There is always a reason behind his violence. It's not that, it's just you are somehow still so much in his head that you fully understand why he's doing what he's doing, and so then it doesn't feel quite as horrible. Now I'm assuming that once we get to the part where he's experimenting on his own children, that that's gonna be a little harder to swallow. But there are parts in this book where I almost wonder if it's similar to that book You that they made a TV show about, where you're spending so much time from the point of view of the villain that you start to identify with them, or to see them still as a villain, but at the same time to, see reason in their actions when really there isn't any. So that's kind of where I am at this. I'm assuming I will update you when I finish the book. I'm semi-hopeful that I will get it done, so I will just keep on trudging forward. Hey guys, it is a little bit before 10 o'clock on Sunday, and I'm here to finish up this vlog. I did just finish The Dumb House, so yay to that. That was not the ending I was hoping for, but you know what? It's a good ending. It for the book, it's a good ending. So I think I'm going to give this book either 4 or 4.5 stars. I think I need to sleep on it a little bit, but I did think it was a really interesting read. I really felt like it's the kind of book that kind of like expands the way you think, even though you're in the head of someone who's pretty much mad as a hatter as far as I'm concerned. He is still in a way a crazy academic, and he is very intelligent, and the story is very intelligent. So you feel like you're getting that little academic itch scratched in your brain while you're reading it. This book is overall, I think, very disturbing. It made me a little nauseous at some parts, I'm gonna be honest. But overall, I really enjoyed. I'm gonna say enjoyed. I wouldn't say I actually enjoyed any of this book, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I think I've pretty much said everything I have to say on this book for now. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up this vlog. I'm very happy that I got 3 books done this week, even though only one of them was from my TBR game, or Becca's Bookopoly, now that I think of it, because the Raven King and Gideon the Ninth were both for Aurelium and not for any of the other 2 readathons. So I will let you know at the beginning of my next vlog what book I will be picking up next. So thank you guys as always for supporting my channel by watching my videos, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!